Swimming and diving competed in day one of the Atlantic 10 Championships, and some are faring more well than others. Hello, I'm Anna Gomez.
And I'm Brendan Rigney. Women's lacrosse opened up their season against our favorite rival, Temple. Did the Explorers strike out the Owls? You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics, SportsLine.
Welcome to SportsLine. We've got a great show for you, including the scoop on the upcoming spring sports seasons.
And later, Jeff LaRoe is going to break down the matchup against George Washington. And then on SportsLine, this pains me to say, heartthrob Jake Smolinski headed to the Tom-Gola to see if men's basketball could finally get another win in the A10.
But first, let's take a look at what went down this past week for our athletes. After the first day of swimming and diving's Atlantic 10 Championship, the Explorers took first in the 1-meter dive thanks to a 325-point dive from sophomore Dylan Urasitz. LaSalle divers Chase Ott and CJ Gimple also reached the finals in the same event, with Gimple placing 4th and Ott placing 8th. The team of Jeffrey Fannerstein, Jakub Bartoszewicz, Jerry Gravel, and senior Justin Hughes finished in 6th place in the 800-yard freestyle relay. Day 2 of the morning prelims sent 6 athletes to the finals. In the 200-yard individual medley, Johan Roth, Fabian Bergman, and Cameron Fadley paced behind junior Jerry Gravel, where they all will continue on to the finals. Matthias Glenesk is also advancing into the finals in the 500-yard freestyle, and Strahina Stankovic is going to the finals in the 50-yard freestyle.
The women's swimming and diving team completed their first day of the A10 Championships on Wednesday, February 17th. Emma Smith, Hannah Elliott, Kate Hay, and Ava Marie Osteris took 9th place in the 800-yard freestyle relay. The team came in with a time of 7 minutes and 28.89 seconds. Olivia DeStefano, Kelsey Jenkinson, Osteris, and Hay took on the 200-yard medley relay and placed 10th. The women ended up finishing with a time of 1 minute and 45.14 seconds. On day 2, Emma Smith made it to the finals of the 500-yard freestyle after a 3rd-place performance. Now the Explorers sit in 10th place after day 2 of A10 Championships.
Women's lacrosse had their season opener down Broad Street against Temple on February 17th. Even with the graduation of 7 seniors last season, LaSalle was predicted as 5th in the A10 coming into the season. However, it appears there are going to be some growing pains as Temple's senior heavy squad picked apart the Explorer defense. Having already lost their season opener, Temple was aggressive from the start, tallying 6 unanswered goals by the time the Explorers finally scored. They didn't slow down either. Temple closed out the game 13-2, leaving the young Explorer team standing in the dust. As for their offense, Caitlin Fay carried the entire attack with only 2 goals. Sophomore goalkeeper Lucy Lowen also made 6 saves in her first collegiate start. Overall, it looks like this season opener was a shock to women's lacrosse, but Coach Bossel is confident that they will improve exponentially with each game.
On Saturday, February 13th, the women's basketball team traveled to the Bronx to take on the Fordham Rams for more A10 play. The women were hoping to start a streak after their home win against UMass. LaSalle looked solid in the first half, taking a 27-25 lead going into the locker room. But the Explorers only maintained the lead briefly in the third, with 11 straight points from the Rams erasing the deficit. Fordham increased their lead to double digits midway through the fourth and managed to hold off LaSalle from retaking the lead following a 9-2 run in the fourth. Low scoring from the blue and gold was the deciding factor in the end, with LaSalle taking the L 54-44.
And then after this loss, the team got a few days rest before taking the court again, this time at home where they welcomed the St. Joe's Hawks on Wednesday, February 17th. This contest proved much better for the team, lighting up the scoreboard and stat sheet en route to a 75-70 victory over the Hawks. This would be their 5th win of the year and 2nd straight at the Gola. LaSalle led by 6 at the half and 10 leading into the 4th. St. Joe's began to mount a comeback, but their efforts were readily handled by the Explorer defense. Amy Griffin rallied a career high of 33 points, while Lisa Minster recorded 2 career highs of her own with 9 rebounds and 5 blocks. Jasmine Alston nearly managed a triple-double, tallying 10 points, 8 boards, and 8 helpers.
Men's basketball looked to end their latest string of losses as they took on rival St. Joe's on February 13th. The Hawks entered the matchup as one of the top teams in Philadelphia with a 20-4 record. They began confidently enough, starting the game with a 9-0 run. Despite Carl Harris and Jordan Price hitting some threes, LaSalle's defense fell apart by the end of the first half with a score of 40-27. LaSalle's guard-heavy attack was dominated by the outsized St. Joe's 5. Even as the momentum halted, Cleon Roberts fought his way through the pain for 17 points. However, the Hawks kept the Explorers at bay for the rest of the game for an 88-62 win. On the bright side, with his 8 points on the night, Jordan Price broke his 1,000th point career mark at LaSalle. Carl Harris also stepped up with 12 points in only 16 minutes of play. Overall, it was a tough night for the Explorers, bringing their record to 5-18. Then, on February 17th, LaSalle hosted A10 powerhouse St. Bonaventures, hoping to turn things around. Jacob Smolinski was there to catch the action. Let's take a look.
As LaSalle headed into this matchup against St. Bonaventure, an incredibly strong A10 team, it was not exactly looking good on paper. Completely outsized, more experience, and the momentum of a 9-3 record in the A10, St. Bonaventure was the bookie's choice in terms of who you'd place money on. However, as we constantly see throughout LaSalle sports, we really enjoy being the underdog and throwing wrenches in the plans of, for example, nationally ranked teams like Dayton. And this is basically what happened on that night in Nagola. This was a completely different team on the court compared to the brutal loss to St. Joe's. The Explorers took control of the home court advantage and came out of the gate strong and aggressive with an 11-2 run from the start. Price and Roberts were confident with back-to-back threes that immediately set the tone for the matchup. Now with Bonaventure trying to gain momentum, LaSalle's guards controlled the perimeter and opened up their timing for three-pointers. And in the first half, LaSalle went 8 for 16 in threes, which kept the Bonnies in line. The Explorers faltered a little bit as the half rounded out with Marcus Posley trying to get things started for Bonnas. However, in the final seconds of the half, Tony Washington missed a layup, rebounded the layup, then tipped in the shot. And this scrappy play took the Explorers into the second half with a score of 35-32. The apprehension if the Explorers were going to be able to keep up the momentum was real, and despite Stukes nailing a three from the start of play, Bonnie started to catch up and took the lead with 15 to go. And it was a back-and-forth battle as LaSalle's defense then began to dominate the Bonna's attack. Exceptional coverage by Schuler and Price kept the Explorers in the game, and the biggest turning point came when the Bonnas ran out the shot clock, not able to get to the net or even find a good shot. LaSalle's defense was intimidating and dynamic for one of the first times this season, and on the offensive side, Yevgen provided a spark by making clutch plays to the net that looked borderline impossible to make. And finally, the Explorers went on a back-breaking 9-2 closing run, slowing down the game for the win 71-64. And LaSalle kept its cool with unshakable performances by Stukes, Washington, and Schuler as they ran out the clock. And this brings LaSalle's record to 6-18 with what looks like perhaps a second wind on the season.
Today was what I had envisioned this year, and for whatever reason, we've come up short, but we don't want to come up short anymore. I'm not surprised by the outcome at all. I'm not surprised at the way that we played. You know, I'm surprised that we haven't been able to do it, you know, throughout this year.
Thank you, Jake. So 71-64 win by Explorers over St. Bonaventure. Joining us now on desk to go a little bit more in depth, STP's Tyler Harper. Tyler, thanks for coming on.
Always great to be on, guys.
So we won 76-64. St. Bonaventure's falls to 17-7. Fans of Bonaventure are a little upset because this hurts their chances in the A10s up ahead and potentially a March Madness run. But let's focus on the Explorers real quick. Tyler, what did we like coming from the Explorers' performance, both on offense and defense, specifically in this game?
Resiliency, because this game was back and forth throughout, very close, of course. After the first half, only a 3-point lead for the Explorers. And really throughout the second half, the theme of the half was Bonaventure would take a 2 or 3 point lead, Explorers would tie it, and so on and so forth. An interesting stat that I looked at after last night, Bonaventure only led for 5 minutes and 6 seconds of this game, which I was very surprised at because a lot of the second half was them crawling ahead, Explorers getting back. So for LaSalle to be able to take that never give up attitude, because let's face it, a 10-game losing streak, it's not fun for anybody involved. So they're going to want to overcome that, and they did, and especially on their home court where there was a lot of noise and a lot of energy at the end of that game.
So the one play that sticks out in my mind in terms of Explorers' defense, and I think Jake highlighted it in the recap, was As a team, they forced a turnover for a shot clock violation on behalf of St. Bonaventure. Explorers defense, I mean, we're a little smaller than we were last year in terms of size, which has been one of the storylines continuing out through the whole season. But what changed for this game, do you think, in terms of defense up against the Bonnies?
I think I hate to beat the same drum, but resiliency. They know the story this year. Not only have they been outsized a lot this entire year, but they've been short a lot of guys. One already due to a lot of guys redshirted for next year, but also due to injuries and sickness, whatever the case may be. So I think they just knew that they just had to stick together. And you mentioned that shot clock violation. I think that was the turning point, because it was impressive that the defense stayed in all of their assignments' faces. And as the shot clock wound down, I was very surprised that Bonaventure didn't even just chuck it up. So that was huge for the Explorers.
Yeah, you could see almost a sense of panic in the St. Bonaventure Bonnies at that point, because they were about neck and neck with the Explorers the whole way through. And then right there, as you said, was probably, at least on face value, the turning point there. We're going to move on to, we highlighted it very briefly, the Bonnies were hoping to be a contender this year. Would you say this was the Explorers' game to win, or was it the Bonnies' game to lose?
I think it was the Bonnies' game to lose, because they were very impressive, 9-3 in A10 play going into this game, which I was kind of surprised at, because Bonaventure, at least the past couple years, has been somewhat on the lower tier of the A10. So for them to have that much of a winning record was big for them to come into this game. But the St. Bonaventure coach said it in his press conference at the end of the game. His team was not ready to play. At least he didn't feel that way. So the Explorers took advantage. It was kind of a slugfest, but LaSalle came through.
So I remember Jake Smo said in the postgame when he and I were wrapping up shooting the game, and that plays into what the Bonaventure head coach had said about them not showing up to play. Fatigue from the commute might have played a big role in that, because they're coming from, I think, Central State, New York. Final question for Tyler before we move on here to Exploring Headlines. Yevgen Sakniuk. Who is this guy? He's an enigma to me. He was only in for a total of 16 minutes last night. He only was 2 for 3, but when he was in there, there was just something a little fishy in a good way about this Explorer offense. They were calmer. They weren't as flashy as they usually are, but when he came in there, things just seemed to settle for the Explorers.
You said enigma, that's the perfect word, because he came in, got back from sickness a couple weeks ago, put up close to 20 points in an astounding effort. He needs to get tougher. That's what G's been saying about him the entire year, from coming from overseas to the American style of play. But if he can adapt and if he can continue to stay well, you know what? Hey, just another weapon for the Explorers moving forward.
Well, let's see how this season turns out with that. I'm hoping to see that this will put up another string of wins. Fingers are crossed for the Explorers. Tyler, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Now moving on to Exploring Headlines. Anna Gomez, what's our top story?
Our top story for Exploring Headlines is Sean Quigley, a graduate of 2007. He competed in the Olympic trials in Los Angeles, and he was in the lead pack the entire time. He ended up placing 8th, so he did not qualify for Rio in next year. Only the top 3 finishers were going to do that, but he finished that time in 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 52 seconds. Which was just 4 minutes off the first place, Galen Rupp, who is an Olympian. He's a silver medalist who finished it in 2 minutes and 11 minutes, 2 hours and 11 minutes. It's a long race. So that's pretty exciting. Even though he did not qualify, he was a very decorated athlete here at LaSalle, and so we wish him the best of luck as he continues his career. 9th
place finish. That's a little better than I would do, I think. Only marginally better than how I would perform, but. You know, we'll never really see that. I'm not challenging Quigley to any sort of foot race, thank God. Next Exploring Headline, huge news in terms of the university's on-campus community and athletic community. Our athletic director, Tom Brennan, is stepping down after he's been here since 97? Yes, 97, after stints at San Jose State and Loyola Maryland. He's been around for a while. He's seen a lot of changes here in the athletic department at LaSalle. Primarily, most recently at least, the addition of the 3 sports teams, you know, men's and women's water polo and women's golf. Pretty huge deal there. He's also been around for the Sweet 16 performance by the men's basketball team in 2013. But another thing is that he's leaving open a post that needs to be filled, especially in this trying financial time for the university. So it's going to be interesting to see who the interim will be and who will be picked by the university come next fall. So that's a storyline that we're hoping to continue with for the rest of this season. That takes us to our first commercial break. When we come back, though, we will have your game previews and the marquee matchup. So please stay tuned.
Welcome back. There is plenty of LaSalle sports action this upcoming week, so let us highlight the games ahead. Men's and women's swimming and diving continue their Atlantic 10 championship meets through Saturday, February 20th. The men currently sit in second place, tied with St. Bonaventure for 98 points. The women are struggling a bit in 10th place, but they do stand a chance to make up some points as they chase Duquesne and St. Bonaventure, who are just a few points ahead.
After taking a week off to prepare, the men's and women's track and field team will embark on their Atlantic 10 championships on February 20th and 21st. Last year, the women took 11th place after crucial performances by Morgan Zeckley in the 3,000 meter and Molly Mickles' 5,000 meter race. The men took 7th place out of 9 teams with points earned by Chris Trimble and John Pujols on the 1,000 meter race.
Baseball opens up their season on the road at Winthrop starting Friday, February 19th. The Eagles will take on LaSalle in a doubleheader on Saturday before versing in a final matchup on Sunday. Then on Tuesday, February 23rd, LaSalle will welcome Lafayette to DeVincent Field. The men are coming off a 24-27-1 season and beat Lafayette 6-2 in 2013.
Men's golf heads into Atlantic 10 Play Championships on Monday, February 22nd to start the spring season. Back in September, LaSalle teed off with fellow A10 competitors St. Joe's and George Mason, where they placed 14th out of 17th overall. But the men came in last in the A10 championships in 2015.
Women's lacrosse will try to set a pace for their season when they travel to the University of Delaware on Tuesday, February 23rd. Last year, the Blue and Gold suffered a devastating 5-24 loss against the Blue Hens.
Fresh off of that electric win here at the Gola, women's basketball will play number 3 in the A10's St. Bonaventure on Saturday at 1 p.m. After that, they're back on the road for the second to last A10 game of the season versus Duquesne. The Dukes are number 1 in Atlantic 10 play and are just 11-1 for the season.
Men's basketball will try to capitalize on their high when they take on Fordham University on Wednesday, February 24th at 7 p.m. at the Gola. Earlier this season, the men lost to the Rams in a tight 66-61 loss. But before that, the men will try to take charge in their first matchup against George Washington. Jeff LaRoe brings you this week's marquee matchup, so check it out.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Marquee Matchup. I'm Jeffrey LaRoe. The LaSalle men's basketball team is back at it in Atlantic 10 play, taking on George Washington University this Sunday, February 21st. It's been a rough season for the Explorers, both in and out of conference play, with just an overall record of 5-18 and a record of 1-11 in conference play. the single win from a decisive game earlier this season in first place Dayton. George Washington, however, comes into the game 18-7. They're 5th in the conference with a conference record of 7-5. For the Explorers, Jordan Price leads the team with an average of 19 points per game, and that's who the Explorer needs to get going early and often if they want to capture this win. But he can't do it alone. Cleon Roberts needs his A-game from beyond the arc. If Roberts can prove to the GW defenders that he is indeed a threat that he can be, it will free up space for Price, which will in turn lead to points. But for the Explorers to really have a chance to secure this victory, they need to protect the ball. In their game versus Rhode Island, turnovers plagued the blue and gold, totaling 19 in their way to a 62-79 loss to the Rams. And in just 2 games, they've had 11 turnovers or more, and a more similar fate will follow the Explorers fail to protect the rock. Hopefully, good ball movement by the Explorers can create space inside and outside the arc, limiting the turnovers. The Explorers have yet to capture the victory on the road in conference play with an 0-7 record, but all of us here at SportsLine hope the Explorers can finally rally a win away from home. That does it for this week's marquee matchup. Don't forget to see how the men fare on the road versus George Washington on Sunday, February 21st. I'm Jeffrey Leroux. Go Explorers.
Yeah, we're doing picks of the week.
Now it's time for a victory lap for segments. Our correspondent and resident psychic, Jacob Smolinski, spends his time analyzing the upcoming games, predicting these upcoming games, and predicting the outcomes. So, sure, he might have completely miscalled the lacrosse opener and partly missed the men's basketball win by 1 game, but somehow he predicted in full confidence the women's basketball win against St. Joe's. It is also quite possible that he inspired the team due to his interview with Jasmine Alston. But anyway, Brendan, can you take us through our first picks of the week?
Yeah, Jake would love to be here on desk, but he's indisposed at this moment presently. So first pick is concerning swimming and diving A10 championships in Geneva, Ohio. He is calling for Matthias Glenesk to take home the 1,500-meter race with a victory. So we're hoping to see if that's going to pan out for him. I'm pretty confident. I mean, Matthias Glenesk is just such a solid swimmer all the way around. He's been, outperforming himself in his past season performances this whole season. So I see nothing but, a victory for him in any of the lanes that he'll be in. Also, another note for the swimming and diving A10 championships. Jakub Bartoszewicz, he didn't perform so well on the first day in the pool, Anna, but Jake and I, we spoke about this very briefly before. We both think he'll turn it around. He's a great player. Great swimmer, excuse me, and
he knows how to perform under pressure.
Yeah, that's another thing. When he sees that he didn't perform to his best of abilities, he typically turns around. We've seen that time and again this season and last season. So, we'll see how the two of them perform, and just in general, we're expecting to see top 3 placings from at least 5 of LaSalle's swimmers. So we're maybe not the top of the pack, but we'll be pretty close to the top at the end of these A10s. So we'll keep you posted on that. Now we're going to move on to baseball. We're seeing a close loss for baseball in South Carolina, against Winthrop. It's the season opener, so they're going to be a little rusty. I mean, I've seen them time and again practicing outside in the cold, so they will probably welcome the warm weather of South Carolina, I can imagine. But Winthrop has been practicing for months outside as well, down in that climate, so they're going to be more accustomed to the playing conditions, I think. So, we'll see. But men's baseball was all right last year. They were toeing the line between 500 for the most part. They're a very streaky team, much like our men's basketball team, Anna. So we're thinking that they're going to continue the momentum that they ended, because they ended on a pretty decent note last year. So we'll see how that's going. Our power hitter, Joey Ravert, is still on the team. I'm excited to see how he's going to perform this year, especially after the loss of Mark Williams to this thing called graduation. So we'll see how that goes. What's our third pick, Anna Gomez?
Our third pick is a win for women's basketball against St. Bonaventure. So despite that loss to Fordham, we did win against St. Joe's. So we are on a really good high right now. St. Bonaventure is number 3 in the A10s, but our women, I don't know, Jake. I actually don't have justification for Jake's pick here. But Amy Griffin is on a really, really good high. She's coming off a 33-point game. That's huge. And
Yeah, absolutely.
That's her best to career date. She outscored Micaiah Owens, obviously. That's huge. And Jasmine Alston, also really, really strong performing. An absolute powerhouse when it comes down, like, as a team player.
Anna Gomez, I'm going to have to agree with Jake on this one. The whole Jake inspiring the team with the interview with Jasmine Alston, albeit it might seem like a joke, I actually truly believe that the things that she said when she sat down with Jake were 100% honest and truthful in terms of where the team is now in terms of their overall confidence. You know, they're obviously not the best team in the A10, and they've been underperforming in certain aspects. But you know that win this past week and the win before that one too. I mean, that's 2 wins out of the past 3 games. That's not necessarily unprecedented for this season, but I think there's something going on with the team. They're starting to click finally. It's been a little too long for us to see that. So we'll hope to see them have a nice long run in the A10 championships in Brooklyn in the weeks ahead. So I'm saying it's going to be a win. I mean, we can politely disagree about this, but we will see. So
We'll see, Brendan. We will see. That just about wraps it up for us this week. If you cannot make it out to see the marquee matchup, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. And keep up with this weekend's other sporting events by visiting goexplorers.com and by following us on Twitter at SportsLine LTV. We post game updates and sneak peeks into the upcoming show.
Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV. We welcome you to send us your thoughts and suggestions about the show on either website.
So for Jeff and our SportsLine team, I'm Anna Gomez.
And I'm Brendan Rigney. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the game.